Hello, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of the Penny Lane Podcast. Today, Blayne and Ellis are joined by Reda of Aries Trading to talk about the platform and how they are empowering retail traders in this market. Make sure you subscribe to the Penny Lane Podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as our YouTube channel. Today's episode is brought to you by Last Bottle Wines and Aries Trading. Enjoy.
Hello, Reda. Welcome to the Penny Lane Podcast. We're so happy to have you.
Hey, how's it going, Blayne? I'm glad to be here.
Great. We also have Ellis with us. Ellis, I feel like it's been a month of Sundays since I've talked to you.
Yeah, it's been a while, and then
that's something we say down here in the South. Do you guys say that up in Philly?
Definitely not.
Yeah, what does that mean?
We say I haven't seen you in a minute, which in reality, like a minute means you probably saw a person recently, but in Philly terms, it means a long time.
A month of Sundays is like longer than a month. It's like 30 Sundays, so that's like 8 months or something. It means a long time. I haven't seen you in a month of Sundays. They say it in a lot of country songs in the 90s. I'm probably older than you guys. Anyway, we all just learned something, I think.
Has it actually been a month of Sundays?
Yeah, I've never
or is
heard
it
that.
like an expression like, oh, it's been a month of Sundays?
Oh, it's an expression. Just means a long time. Actually, should I look it up?
No, I just don't want to get made fun of the next time I try to wiggle that into a conversation. They're going to be like,
Yeah.
It's a great, month of Sundays. A very long, seemingly endless period of time. Yep, that's what it means.
That's one of those southern sayings, but yeah, Philadelphia. Yeah, I haven't heard that one ever before.
Okay, well, now you got a little southern knowledge. So,
I'm going to drop it.
Yeah, Alice, what have you been doing? Crushing it with your trades, or?
Yeah, I've been doing all right. I'm not going to lie. January sucked, February sucked, and then March we really kicked things into gear. Pretty much what I've been doing a lot more recently is systemizing everything. So being almost turning it into I don't know how to explain it, not in trading terms, but just very systematic. It's more of a process. I'm doing my books, I track my trades. I'm doing a lot more to make it very processed and robotic, and that's kind of been working on recently. Definitely making 1/3 the trades I was making probably the last 2 years, but my win rate's also higher. And now I've been teaching my strategy more on Twitter of kind of what I do, and a lot of people are having success with it. I keep it really simple. I use the 8 and VWAP and just draw trend lines and everything like that. Other than that, I am gonna go. We have a big business meeting in Dallas. A few of us, so Dr. B, Mitch, myself, Barn, and some others.
Wait, business? What kind of business?
Just a lot of meetings. We're going to be talking really highly profitable trading strategies and exchanging our knowledge of the markets together. So we're going down to Dallas next Thursday, so that'd be a good time.
Should I come?
You can. It's definitely more of a boys' trip,
Yeah, I think I could fit in, and I'm just dying to meet Dr. B.
You haven't met Dr. B yet?
I haven't met him. We've talked on the FaceTime, not on the actual FaceTime, on the podcast.
Yeah, Dr. B is he's one of the nicest, most I call him the gentle Eastern European giant because he's a bit of a, I don't want to say an accent, but he's very his mannerisms are very Eastern European, and he's the nicest, kindest guy. He gave me a Rolex the first time I met him. So
what? I'm texting him right now. He gave you a Rolex?
He didn't give it to me for the hold forever, but it's go out, a lot of meetings. So I had to wear a Rolex at the meeting. So I look like a professional businessman. So
yeah, of course.
So yeah. Well, we were at a penthouse and he just had an extra Rolex on him, so he let me wear it.
Is it in your possession now?
No. It was only for a night or two. Yeah. Sorry. I guess I didn't tell you that story.
No, but man.
Right. But enough about me.
So we're going to Dallas. This is fun. All right. Well, anyway, Reda, welcome. We're so happy to have you, and we've so enjoyed having Now, is it Aries or trade Aries?
It's become trade Aries, but it started off as just Aries, and I kind of like just Aries. I think it's sleeker, but both work.
All right. All right. Well, we've so enjoyed having Aries as a sponsor on the podcast this season. That's been really fun. And I've certainly enjoyed, we've had a couple business meetings. I've enjoyed getting to know you. And I can't wait to hear a little bit more about your story. Do you trade?
So I actually got my start my first couple of years was I was just a trader by myself. Not really the kind of things that you'll probably hear about on the podcast. I'm more so focused on really special situations, like where companies were going through distressed bankruptcies or some kind of split where maybe there were so many different asset classes that it made it so that if you did the work, sometimes you could find some alpha. But that was sort of my niche. So I would try to figure out, okay, why is everybody not looking at this? And then is everybody that is looking at this looking at it correctly? I did that for a couple of years. I mean, I still do it here and there now. It's like a fun little puzzle, but it definitely requires a lot of time. And unfortunately, I just don't have the resources to just sit there all day and get that and just be a trader, right?
Sure. Yes. Well, so that's interesting. When did you start doing that?
That was about 4 or 5 years ago. So I did that. So, I mean, I still do it now, right? Like it's value investing, and you're just trying to find things where maybe the market isn't pricing assets correctly. Like for example, during COVID, a lot of hotel REITs were going to sell. And the reason they were going to sell was because hotel REITs because if you own 19 hotels, you need a management company, right? So if you're giving 5% of your revenue to a management company, what ends up happening is those revenue margins get skewed. And what people found out was that if interest rates are super low, individual investors might be more interested in owning larger properties. So what private equity did was they would come in, they would buy these hotel REITs, and then they would sell them to individual investors. And it would be like a 20% markup on what they were trading or on the price that it was trading publicly. So I did that a couple of those are like CDOR was a really nice one for me. BRG was another really nice one for me, where these companies were they get bought out by private equity. Private equity spins them off and sells them to individual real estate investors. So that was probably the most recent trades. I haven't really done anything since then, though.
Cool.
This isn't day trading, Blayne.
It's a little over my head, but
he's not scalping bull flags and pennant breakouts, right? This is deep fundamental analysis. Like this is what a lot of the big boys do. I don't want to say because you have from what I remember, you do have a finance background, right?
I don't have my background. I dropped out of school, and I was going to school for biomedical engineering. So I only had a couple of semesters left. So I guess you could consider my background biomedical engineering. But no, man, my entire life I've been in finance. So literally ever since I was a little kid, you kind of just want more than you have. Like you're just a naive little kid. You start thinking like, oh man, I'm gonna make money in the stock market, and then I don't know. You just read one book and you're like, oh, I guess I remember one of the first books I ever read. It's called Where Are the Investors' Yachts? And it's a book of really dogging Wall Street on how they charge these high management fees, and the fund managers get to drive around in these big fancy yachts, but then you get the investors that are not driving around big fancy yachts, and I remember reading that and a yacht, the kind of yachts that were talked about in this book, it's a reference, but they were talking about $20-30 million boats. And I remember thinking damn, there are people on this planet that can afford $20-30 million boats. So really young, I got into reading, primarily my favorite is Bill Ackman. He runs Pershing Square, and he got his big break. He got his big break buying this huge building and then piecing it off to public investors. And that idea of he has a lot of balls to take on that kind of risk. He's a nobody, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna finance $100 million building, and then I'm gonna sell it to regular people, and I'm gonna make a profit. And I remember thinking man, if I was cocky enough at the time to believe I could probably do that, right? So like, I'm sure it cannot be that hard, right? So one thing leads to another, and one book, 2 books, 3 books, and eventually you're like, damn, I kind of know what I'm talking about, at least to a certain, or at least I thought I knew what I was talking about. I might have just got lucky. So, I don't know. And then it's fun. I think day trading is cool, but what I really like about these special situations is it's like a huge crossword puzzle. And often, you're reading these filings or you're listening to these earnings calls or these conference calls, and it only takes one sentence for you to figure out like a plan of attack. And I really just enjoy. I don't know. When I had more time, I found it to be super fascinating. Like, I don't know. It's like a big game, I guess. But I've been wrong plenty of times too. I don't want this to seem like I'm this genius investor. I'm absolutely 150% not a genius investor.
You sound like a genius investor. So as far as I'm concerned, you're way more high level than me. But that's definitely an interesting take. So what made you decide to? So I don't know if the viewers know this, but we spoke before, so I know a little bit about you. So what made you decide to? Well, how old are you? We can ask that because you seem like a very well-spoken young man.
Man, I'm 21 years old.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's always the reaction. That's always.
Oh yeah. Yeah. How did you become so well spoken? Like, what was your upbringing like? Like, what were your parents like? Like, how did you form to be the human being you are now? Because now you're the CEO of I guess we will call it a fintech startup, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what kind of led to that? Or have you just always been like a go-getter?
Oh man, I've always been a rebellious idiot. That's the honest truth. That's the honest truth of it. But look, I grew up. Both my parents are first generation. I'm a first generation American. My parents are immigrants,
Okay.
right? So growing up, I definitely didn't need for anything. I don't want that to seem like I don't want it to seem like that at all. But I did. Of course, being like a young kid and you watch television or you read or you see things in the news and you're like, wow, a lot of people have a lot more than me. And as a kid, really early on, I realized like if I'm like I want more, right? Like every kid wants more, right? Like if you ask any kindergartner what his dream is, he's going to tell you like, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a billionaire, whatever. So I guess I grew up wanting more, and then I just got really lucky. Like I just became infatuated with the idea of billions of dollars transacting a second, right? Because the markets have always been like that. And I remember really young thinking, probably like, I don't know, maybe like 12 years old, 13 years old, I thought a lot about how, wow, if there's $1 billion being transacted a day, I only need like 1% of that, right? So if I could figure out a way just to get 1% of that, like I'm set, I'm good. I will have whatever I want. That number is like $10 million. I was like, oh, I'll get that $10 million and I'll be okay. So I remember just my parents pressuring me, not I don't want to say pressuring, but pushing me into a comfortable life, right? They're like, okay, go to school, get good grades, get a scholarship, and then like go be a doctor. So I in the back of my head, while I was pursuing that, because that's what I kind of grew up thinking. In the back of my head, I always thought like it didn't make sense for me to like I just didn't like it, right? Like I didn't like it. Like I did relatively well in school. I got the scholarship like they wanted. I graduate early. I'm in class, and I just remember like looking around the classroom and thinking like, man, like everybody here wants to be a doctor. And I'm here supposedly because I want to be a doctor. But the reality is, like, I just don't feel like I have any friends here. Like, nobody here seems to be like on the same wavelength. Like, I really liked finance. I was really interested in crypto, and I had done relatively well. I was building software for a while, so I had software that that we had built, and it was relatively popular. And I was like, man, I could, like, it just, I don't know. A couple of years ago, I'm just sitting in a classroom, and I realized like. And, there are thousands of people using my software. I employ people. This is going pretty well. And I'm like sitting in a classroom learning about anatomy. This is not the greatest. Like, it's unfair to the people that trust me, trust me with their, trust in me to build them the right tool or the people that I employed at the time. Like I don't know. Like so. I guess from that. I don't want it to seem like a hero's arc, but that's like the story, right? It's like you grow up wanting. I grew up wanting a lot, uh, and then just kind of rebelling and rebelling and rebelling, and then eventually, I don't know, man. I just ended up
That's
here,
an
right?
awesome
I just
story.
ended up here. I don't know.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's definitely in the Hall of Fame for stories. Now, let's talk about it. So we spoke before, and you do understand how to program, right?
Yeah.
Now, how did you get involved in that? What kind of software are you developing while you're in learning how to be a doctor, and you're sitting there like everyone? Little side note, I had that same feeling too. I'm looking around like I wanted to be an actuary when I first got into college, and I'm looking around and I'm like, dude, no one in this class is like me. Like no one. And so I switched to accounting, and I'm like, okay, these people are a little bit cooler. So it's funny that you had the same similar college story as I did.
Yeah. I
Now,
mean, look, I grew up in a small town, right? And the coolest thing in that town was like, oh, I'm going to medical school. And I just remember I just remember thinking like, man, this kind of sucks. Like if that's the coolest thing, and that nothing against it. It's a fantastic
no.
route for tons of people. And I just remember thinking to myself like, I just don't feel like I am doing. I just if I fail, if I go for something bigger and I fail, and that thing that I want that's so big is really what I want to do. Like I know that my happiness will be at least 3x higher than it would be if I was like a doctor. Then the way that I thought about it was, it's worth me risking like whatever is going on right now. And that's like where it finally clicked. I was like, okay, worst case scenario is like I just end up like I don't know, like at working a regular job, like a software engineer or something, right? That's like my absolute that's like what I would consider like my plan B or plan C or whatever. Like that to me was the worst case. So I think that if people often if more often people would just sit there and think about really what their worst case is, I'm willing to bet you that more people are willing to take a risk, for something that they really want. And for me, it was just like, I really want to build dope shit that people all over the world use. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? Like, I don't know.
yeah, that's way better than working some 9 to 5.
Yeah, man.
And you're also young too, so you have that risk taking ability, right? A lot of people who are they got kids and stuff like that, they can't really out there and go take a risk. And I think being young, that's the best part, right? You can go out there and just, like we say, just fucking send it, dude. See what happens.
Dude, exactly, man. Like, look, we live in the United States. We're so fortunate, or at least I feel so fortunate to live in the United States, because like I hear stories, like my parents, before they came to the United States, they were in refugee camps for years, right? And I hear those.
Whoa, are you serious?
Yeah. And so like you hear those stories, and you're like, damn, like not everybody has like a life like that I have. And for my worst case to be like, like I'm living in like for my worst case to be better than 90% of the world's best case, then why like I just don't understand why I wouldn't take that risk. Because at the end of the day, what Aries is, or at least what I want to do, is if I can make 1 million people's lives 1% better, like that's crazy, right? And the internet lets you do that. Like I can with software, like you sit there at your computer and you have this idea, and you're able to create value for people like with your hands. It's the coolest thing in the world to me, right? Like it's pretty dope to think about. Like people use things that I build, and they enjoy using them. It makes their lives better, and the internet makes it so that you could provide that like to hundreds of thousands of people, which is cool.
You're a beast. I love it. I told you when I first met you. So let's get into Aries, right? So why the name Trade Aries?
Oh man, that's a great story. So so we used to run a software development firm before Aries, where we just did freelance software. And during that time, that's where we approached TradeStation for the contract. Originally, it was a contract to build out like free data tools like Options Flow or Dark Pool, so they could use it to bring people into the door for TradeStation. And then it kind of like evolved into what Aries is now. But they gave us 6 months to come up with a demo product. This was in 2019. So late 2019, early 2020. They gave us 6 months to come up with a demo product. And I remember leaving that call and telling my co-founder, who's great, Pash. He was the lead, one of the lead developers at the Canadian Imperial Bank, actually. So he's like this. He's an absolute genius. He makes me look great. So I remember like, right? So I remember we left that call and I told him, I was like, hey man, like, you know, they're asking us to build their broker. They're asking us to help build their part of their API. They're asking us to build some of these data tools. And at the time, I had just got into Robinhood, and I remember like Robinhood went down, and I was really frustrated. So I told him, I was like, "Hey, wouldn't it be pretty cool if we could build Robinhood? Like, how much would that cost?" I think that's what I remember asking. And he goes, "You know, it would cost us a little bit, but if we build out the API the way that you want to build it out, then it would probably be pretty easy if TradeStation gave us the stamp of approval." So I decided like, oh, better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So I just built it. Like I just spent the 6 months building a prototype of Aries. And when we presented it to the TradeStation team, we had to come up with a name. We had like a week to come up with a name. And we had called it Project ARES, so Project Aries, because like Robinhood, Robinhood, and there was another app like called Gatsby. So we just picked another god, like another Greek god, and we were like, okay, Aries, the god of like, it's the god of war. So we're like, okay, we'll just run it with ARES. And we had to come up with a name, and we were going back and forth. And then all of a sudden, I was like, okay, we only have an hour. We have to come up with this name. So I ended up buying TradeAries.com. Like ARES wasn't available. We were going to call it Matador Trades, and Matador wasn't available. The trademark wasn't available. So I just, TradeAries.com worked. We got the trademark for Trade Aries, and I was like, all right, just like we'll just be Trade Aries, and we'll fix it later if anything. And I don't know, we never fixed it. It just kind of stuck. That's a good story. It's
well,
nobody's asked me that. Not many people ask me that.
Yeah. I thought we were gonna go into astrology and like all this like whole deep thing, and it's like, nah, man. All the other websites were taken, so we stuck with it.
We're just procrastinating, like procrastination-prone idiots, and we waited till the last hour to come up with a name.
It's like, hey, we have this sick product, but
yeah,
what do we call it? I like that.
No, I'm gonna. You know what? After this podcast, actually, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna come up with a way better answer for that question that makes me sound like a genius. And
I think that was a pretty solid answer.
Yeah,
totally.
Look, at Penny Lane, like, we are real people, right? We don't need the fluff answers. Like, we like it authentic and real. And so far, you're doing okay. Okay, so nothing to do with astrology. Because as an Aries, I identify with this product.
Dude, I make the joke sometime. My ex-girlfriend is an Aries, right? But it's not true. It's not true at all, but it's funny.
Dude. No, on the website, you got to be like, this is named after my ex-girlfriend, I made it so when we get real big, she sees on commercials,
like,
she
I'm
thinks
on
of me.
CNBC one day, oh, man, then she'll be calling back for sure. I'm just joking.
I don't know, your ex-girlfriend might not know what CNBC is. I mean, at least my girlfriend, she's like, what's a stock? I'm like, oh, brother, here we go again.
I don't know, there's no ex-girlfriend, but that would be funny, huh?
So
that would be good.
So you and I have at several times in our relationship discussed doing like a trading competition that's like fantasy football with brackets and you move up, and like we've had all these really cool ideas, and every time I bring it up you're like, well, yeah, I'll just build it. And I like kind of thought you were bullshitting me, like you'll just build it. And now I'm like, oh shit, he means he would have just build it.
Yeah.
I'm really kind of blown away. Like when you were like, oh, I'll just build it, I was like, how? What?
Yeah,
like,
look,
really went right over my head.
Yeah, people ask all the time, and it's the reason that we were doing so well in freelance software before. But if you're a really good, if you have like, honest to God, it's my team. Like, I know I'm taking all the credit for it here, and it looks like, like I'm this like crazy genius, but it really, it's not it at all. I have a really fantastic team. Very lucky for like those guys to be around me, and they work their asses off, right? Like, so for me, it's like, if anything that would take a regular developer, a regular team, let's say a month, I guarantee you we can get done in a week. And that's mostly because of how we hand selected the guys that build it, right? Like everybody on the team is bank level. I mean, like for example, like I'll just give you like a little bit of a rap sheet. Like the guy that runs our BD department was running multi-billion-dollar construction products in New York, and you know he's strategizing across the board. The guy that runs basically head of business strategy, which is the guy that would be helping us build. On top of everybody being engineers, he was running power lines in New York City, so he was engineering how people get power in New York City. And then of course my co-founder, like Pash, the guy was the lead developer at the Canadian Imperial Bank for close to a decade. So these guys, I truly believe can do anything. So from my perspective, it's like, we know that Aries does not have billions of dollars. We know that the market exists. We know that people want a platform like Aries, and we just have to sprint to get there. So from my perspective, it's like, if we can do the work now, hopefully it means that we don't have to do as much work later on. So from, of course, right, to help, imagine how much exposure Penny Lane pushing one of our a challenge sponsored by Aries would get us. So yeah, these guys would be working night and day trying to get something like that up, which it's definitely a blessing to have people like that building your things. It makes me look pretty cool.
God, it's such a good idea. It's such a good idea. That would be sick.
Yeah, fantasy football like bracket, me and Shark in the final.
Yes.
I mean, I'd absolutely. Can you trade 0 DTEs on these challenges? That would be
why not? I mean, you could do whatever you decide you want to do. From as long as the regulators don't stop me, you could do whatever you want. I mean, I'm not in the business of telling you what you need to do.
Regulators.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not in the business of telling you what you can and can't trade. That's not my job. Right?
I do have a question.
Had it all fleshed out too. Like, you upload your trades at the end of the day, and then it updates, and then you got to check the website to see where everybody is, and such a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something that we should get the team on. I think not only that, I think even if you started it off as a close knit thing, and then eventually you advance to the public, I think it would do exceptionally well.
Oh my gosh, what if we recruited teams, Ellis?
Oh, like a draft, like a fantasy draft?
Yes, like you versus me. I get Shark.
My team's gonna be killers. I'm just gonna put it that way.
Okay, all right. Well, I also get Mitch picks and Dr. Bullshort.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You're my friend.
Yes, I do. No, you cannot have Dr. B. I introduced you to him.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Wait, can I be a part of this challenge? Can I have a team?
Well,
maybe.
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to recruit you. Let me know some deep fundamental stuff. We'll leverage up 500x, dude, and we'll just send it.
Dude, I mean, I have an even better idea. How about we just find a really, 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 really illiquid penny stock, and then just pump it up with like 3 or 4 grand, up to like 3 or 4 or 5,000%, and make it look like you bought options on it. Easy peasy. Like, there's no need for.
Yeah, dude. It would be like that mineral water.
Wait. By the way, I just want to mention, I'm literally totally kidding. I just, it's just like if I play this challenge, of course I want to win. Right? We're gonna have to.
Oh yeah, of course.
I want to be on the winning team. I don't like doing things where I don't have like an advantage. Like I want to.
Well, I don't like doing things where I don't win. But I put out on Twitter the other day, like, I want to do this challenge and I need some sponsors, and I got like 40 people offering free shit. This is an This is an untapped opportunity.
Oh yeah. I mean, people have tried to do it; they just don't do it well.
Yeah, it just is. I mean, exactly, kind of like my trading. That was a joke. I trade great.
I
anyway.
did a small account on Aries.
What's up?
Anyway, Ellis. I get Broda.
I will make a dream team. Don't even worry about it. But I want to ask.
I get Broda, Dr. Bullshark, and Shark. I'm saying it now publicly, but mostly Broda.
I know all the whales, right?
I mean, let's see, Ellis. Let's see who can flesh out a better team, and we'll just. That's the competition.
I do have a question though about building teams. Like, how did you decide who to recruit who? Like, were you the one that was hiring, or was it a mix of TradeStation and yourself kind of picking the individuals you want to work with?
No, I mean, I had the pleasure of kind of hand selecting, and so I don't have very many employees, but I have done it, so I have some experience in this front. I think the best thing to look for when you're trying to recruit people for a team is you want people that are on sort of the same wavelength as you, and I think uh, like often people are looking just for pure intellect, and what's the point of being really smart if you're just an asshole? uh, for us, it's like I really want people who I could see as being my friends, people who I would want to hang out with, and that has worked really well because at the end of the day, you want people that want to see Aries succeed. Like I know that not every employee is going to do. No employee is going to do as much as me or my co-founder is going to do. Primarily just because like we get the most reward if this kind of thing works. But you have to incentivize these early employees. You have to incentivize people that are key to the team. So giving people, putting people on your cap table, giving people, paying people, at the market rate. That is, I think, after you find the people that you think you can vibe with, and that takes a long time. You have to pay for quality talent, whether you do that with equity or you do it with just pure cash. If you want the best, you have to pay for it, and from there, it's really just a matter of time.
Very good response. I always tell people before the interview, it's like the interviewer is not really going to, they don't really care how smart you are. They just want to see if they can sit next to you for 8 hours a day. That's how every interview I've ever done, that's how I approached it, right? Because you can be really, really book smart, but like you said, if you're an asshole, like no one wants to work with you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, dude, look, I have friends who are running startups that are doing incredibly well. I have friends that are running companies that are super successful, and not one of them is a pretentious asshole. Really, I find that like the people that are super pretentious or are super just douche, like out of this world, people that I just like that are not on the same wavelength. I often find that these kind of people are just it's just like a reflection of something that's going on in their world. So I try not to take it to heart, but I just know that I would not work well with that kind of attitude. So from my perspective, it's like as long as I can surround myself around people who have the same attitude as me when I'm doing super well. At some point, somebody on the team it has to be happy, right? Not everybody can just be dead sad all the time. So as long as we prop each other up, it works really well. It creates an environment of honestly of growth, which is like a cliche answer, I know.
Oh, super cliche, but it was good. Very well done. Now, what's it like being a 21-year-old CEO? Like, do you have any friends from like high school or anything like that are like, what are you doing? And what is your response to them?
Yeah, so I didn't go to a traditional high school. I went to like what they call like a collegiate program. So really early on, first year of high school, I had tested out of some math classes, and that pushed me into the local community college because I basically I had like there were no more math classes that I could take that the high school could offer. I had maxed out those credits.
Yep.
So they pushed me to the community college. So basically, since I was about 14 going on 15, is probably a better answer. So since I was 15, I haven't been in a setting around people my age. So if you ask me my age, like yes, I'm 21 years old, but the truth of the matter is I really definitely feel a lot older. Everyone on my team is pushing into or has gone deep into their 30s, and so it's like I'm surrounded by these people, and then I've been surrounded by college students when I was really young, and I didn't really grow up with very many friends to begin with. So I would definitely say like I have one really, really close friend that I grew up with. He grew up on the same block as me. And that guy's like my best friend, but he's on the path to going to medical. He's like he's on that medical path, and I find that sometimes having to explain like this is my life. Yeah, like I have to go to New York for a week, and then I'm going to Toronto for 3 weeks because I'm trying to figure something out there, or like like it's a really busy lifestyle, and it's really like I would not recommend it for everybody because like sure I would say it's very rewarding to see people using my product. It's very rewarding to like think of something and then see it in real life, but it's definitely from my perspective, it's like, man, like I see all these kids like kids who are my age, or who I grew up around. Like I see them like doing things that a 21-year-old does. And
Absolutely.
that
Yep.
definitely makes me feel like, oh, I wonder how I would have ended up if I had just went that path. But being completely honest, like I really don't feel 21 years old at all. What I like, my life consists of. I mean, I don't know. I work, I go to the gym, and then I go home.
Dude, that's not a bad life,
like,
man. Hey.
like, I swear, like I know it sounds like I'm lying, right? But it's like it's the truth. It's like I work, I go to the gym, and then and then usually when I'm traveling, somebody else from the team is there. So like for fun, we'll go out to eat or something.
Yeah, but you're grinding, right?
My life isn't lame. It's good. I'm doing fine. It's fun.
Nah. I don't see it as lame, right? A lot of people, people get lost in, I call it lost in the sauce, right? Like they're partying, they're at a frat house and doing that kind of stuff, and like people kind of fall off the bandwagon doing that. But in your case, you're dialed in, you're laser focused, you see the future, and you're hustling towards it. There's nothing wrong with that. Just because you don't party and do all that kind of stuff, who cares?
I mean,
You're
it's
CEO, big boss man. Who cares? You're going to
no,
Toronto.
definitely not, right? But it is another thing to add, right? Is like it's there are thousands of people using Aries, and it's growing so quickly. But yet, you have to think people are trusting me with their money, right? Like your money is not something that that you don't hold near and dear. People often work very hard to put the money that they deposit into Aries, and I want to make sure that I do right by them. And that to me means focusing on building the best product that I can and making sure things are buttoned up. So there's a lot of added pressure on that front, right? Like it's really not an easy thing to do. I was very naive at the start when I was like, oh, we'll just build Robinhood, it'll be fine, right? But it is definitely like Elon and a couple of other entrepreneurs talk often about how building an early company is like chewing glass and staring into a really, really deep hole with no like light, right? And it really is like that's like the best expression, because you're on the outside it's like, oh man, Aries is growing at nearly 50% a month. Everything is going great. There's a new application launching in 2 weeks. They're launching all these free data tools. Everything is going fantastic. But the things that are required to make something like that happen, you like honestly you wouldn't believe, right? Like it really is a very pressure set environment. And like I said, I would highly not recommend it to every single person. Like there are some people who I believe would do super well, and I would recommend thinking really introspectively before you decide like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and try to start something on my own. It's something on this grand of on this grand of like something as stupid as saying I'm gonna start a brokerage, right? Like you should, you should not, right? Like, if you're gonna do something like that, which I believe that a lot of people can do things that are that big, but if you're going to do something like that, I think you should think about the effect that that's going to have on you as a person, because you might not like going through that process. But so far for me, it's been probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done, if I'm being honest.
I think it's funny I think it's great how you mentioned how you're dealing with people's money, right? So in my eyes, if someone's handling my money, I want them grinding 24/7 because that's my money. So I think you put that very well put, because if the guy you're handing the money is on, like you mentioned the Yacht Book earlier, right? If he's on partying on yachts and stuff, you're like, well, why how come I don't have a yacht, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, man, it's like this. It's like I'm already competing at a deficit in comparison to my into my peers like Robinhood, Webull, etc. And from my perspective, it's like I need to work harder than them. And even beyond that, now that we're managing a lot of money, right? More money and assets under management than I ever thought that we would get to. That number makes me drives me even more, because it's like if we can get to this level with just the amount of work that I put in right now and the amount of time that I spent on this now, imagine in 5 years, right? And that's where I want to be at. I think about that often. It's like, yes, this is a lot of work, and yes, like sometimes you are putting in 12, 13-hour days, but the reality is when this works, there are no 12, 13-hour days, right? Like that's just the truth of it, is you're kind of like buying time in the future. if it works out, right? It's a huge risk, but the way that I see it is I don't believe that the space right now is fair to the retail trader. And I didn't grow up in a big fancy penthouse. I grew up as a kid wanting more. And I think that, so like me being really young, to me, like $30 for a book was like a shit ton of money, right? We were a family, of four, really like barely making it, right? So for me to go ask my parents like for a $30 book was a huge deal growing up. And now, you're seeing more than 50% of all retail investors paying for extraneous data solutions, right? And often those solutions are cost anywhere from like $150 to $200 plus per month each. And like imagine that, right? Like you're making the retail investor pay 10% of their account to access a level playing field. And it's that idea alone is like, to me, is a huge driver, because like, dude, who wouldn't want to be known as the guy that like the guy that disrupted that industry? It's like, it's definitely that's definitely on my radar. It's like I want to make sure that it's like, maybe it's a narcissism thing. I don't think it is, right? But from my perspective, it's like somebody has to do it, and I know eventually somebody will do it. Why not have it be me that does it? And now that we're like actually doing it, it's even more pressure. It's like, oh man, this is actually working. I actually have to do it now, right? Like I kind of attached my name to this thing. It has to work. So
Oh yeah, I'm all in. Well, let's dive into it a little bit deeper, right? So the example you gave me is like the average retail investor has $2,500 in their account, and they're spending $200 a month on chat rooms and subscriptions and data tools. So how does Aries bridge that gap for someone who's not familiar with your product?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So actually, luckily this morning, we had a launch surrounding this like free data, this free data idea. But the way that Aries bridges that gap is, right now, I think that a lot of these data providers are taking advantage of the retail trader. They're paying $10,000 or $15,000 to access a data set API from something like maybe sometimes directly from the exchanges, and then they're turning around. And if you can get 1,000 people to pay you 60 grand a month, you're making a profit of $45,000 a month. And often these data tools are built by people. Like, I know that I could build some of these tools in a month. So I remember thinking in my head, like, damn, like, I could build this tool in a month, and I'll be making $45,000 a month for like however many months, or like it runs successfully, or years maybe. And that idea started in 2008, 2018, 2019, when I started trading like more seriously, because it made sense. But then it grew as you see these data solutions, they're starting to become mainstream. Like, you have some Twitter profiles that get mentioned as data sources on CNBC. And that idea of giving, like, for example, the guy that won the Nobel Peace Prize 3-4 years ago, I don't mean to quote Nobel, right? But the guy that won the Nobel Peace Prize a couple of years back, his paper, he was a behavioral economist, and his paper was on essentially, the thesis is on human financial illiteracy, which the abstract of that is like, people often, even if you tell them the right thing to do with their money, they won't do it. So he's saying people are so stupid that even if you tell them the right thing to do with their money, they won't do it. And in my head, when I read that, I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's like, it's not people are so stupid. It's like my parents growing up, just trying to make it. They're not worried about learning about the S&P 500, right? Like, even if you came and knocked on their door and told them, yo, put your money in the S&P 500 so you can grow at 10% a year on average, they're going to tell you, like, they're going to be like, get the fuck off my porch, right? Like,
Yep.
right?
What is this, a pyramid scheme, dude? Like, what? No.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not like, the paper cites like, yeah, if you tell people, and this is the interest rate or whatever, right? And it's like, no, man, it's not people are stupid. It's people just, they're ignorant. The idea, they just don't understand what it is that you're trying to tell them. And I believe data is the root cause of that, because, I mean, for somebody like, there's an app out there for finance, for languages called Duolingo, that makes it like a super easy, fun game to learn a new language. And I'm like, man, imagine you had the exact same thing for financial literacy. And then imagine you can bridge that with like somebody's investments. And I believe data is at the core of that. Like, I don't understand why people should have to pay to see the largest options trades for today, or the most unusual options trades. and take money away from money that should be going in an index fund or maybe should be getting invested. It's like, so the way that we're trying to bridge that gap is as many data tools as we can, and we have a lot of data, access to a lot of data, but as many data tools as we can, we're going to build peer comparable tools here by the end of the year, and they're going to be free. So we already have one right now that's like the options flow tool. It's super bare bones. We have a major app update that's going to fix that in about 2-3 weeks. So we're expecting around July 1st. But even beyond that, like this morning, we announced the launch of our Discord bot suite. So the only other competitor with the bot and API suites for the same bots that we're launching. So we're launching a bot that like tracks Congress and Senate trades, tracks dark pool, tracks options flow trades, like lets you put like symbol BRT and then it will return like the top news, the top analyst grade, stuff like that. So that bot, anything, if you look at the peers, the only other comparable peer to the suite that we're launching on July 1st is a tool that costs $1,500 a year. And often that tool is being bought by a Discord server and then they're reselling it to somebody for $50 a month because, people don't have the average person doesn't have $1,500 just to like shell out for this bot. And to me, it's like, it does not make sense to me that a market exists where you can buy a tool for $1,500 and just resell it for $50 a month. It's like, it's crazy to me. And the way that, I just want to get to the point where people have access to that kind of data because, being the rebellious idiot, I really want to prove that humans, like maybe not like every single human being, but look at what happened with Wall Street bets. One guy came up with this idea to short squeeze a stock and it worked, right? Like, he got millions of people to follow follow after him. And imagine you could do that with all kinds of data. And it's only going to take one person to take the data set that we give out for free. It's only going to take one person with one good idea to come up with the next revolutionary way to track or analyze stocks. And I just want to give the average person access to that power.
This episode is sponsored by Aries, the newest trading broker offering both mobile and desktop trading. The app is built for retail traders by retail traders, and they welcome user feedback. Do you ever nail the entry on a trade but can't get filled? You won't need to worry about that anymore because they are a self-clearing brokerage direct to exchange with TradeStation, and they are much faster than other brokerages that route through a clearinghouse. Aries is a multi-asset platform. You are able to trade stocks, options, futures, index options, crypto, and micros. You are also able to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrencies. Lastly, earn up to 5% interest on eligible crypto assets with no lockups. Aries has partners and offers many free tools such as advanced charting, TradingView with unlimited charting and indicators, free options flow, dark pool data, and many more tools on their roadmap to come. This is on average a $50 to $100 per month value, all for free. Finally, you can withdraw and deposit actual crypto and transfer to the US dollar and use it to trade any trading assets offered. Aries is the first brokerage to offer this. Please click the link in our bio or go to www.tradearies.com/PennyLane to sign up for an account today.
Irrational exuberance? When it comes to killer wine at drastically low prices, 30 to 70% off retail and free shipping, we live for that here at Last Bottle Wines. Whether you went long or short on GameStop, you'll need a glass of something terrifically tasty, and we've got the goods. Last Bottle is a daily wine site based in Napa, California. One wine every day at Black Swan event prices, usually 30 to 70% off until, poof, it's gone. Whether you're a pound-the-table type, think ultra-crisp, quaffable Sauvignon Blanc, or a dividend aristocrat, Burgundy, or Napa Cab, there simply is no better place to buy wine on the web, and they always have free shipping. Last Bottle has a deal just for Penny Lane listeners. Use promo code PENNY10 to save 10% on your next order with Last Bottle. The code is good for one order and one order only.
We were just talking about bridging the gap between we'll call big, scary data and how it's not so scary, and how your goal and your mission with your team is to bridge that gap so the average person can have the same data. Because a lot of these companies are just popping up, taking something that costs $2,000, right? Classic example is level 3 data, and just repackaging it and just shilling out to people who don't know any better. And your goal is to, instead of people paying that $100 and $200 a month, is actually take that $100-$200 a month and buy equities and assets with it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, man. The way that I see it is if you push more money into the market and giving people access and giving people access to data and taking that away is just going to end up pushing more money into the market. But if you do successfully get more money into the market, then all that's going to happen is more resources, more ideas, and more risks to take, right? And I think I think it would just be cool. I think it would be really cool to see what people come up with if they have access to whatever the hell they want. Because I'm a huge believer. I'm a huge believer in human power. Like I think that I think that if you get like right now there's such a high barrier to entry for that data that the kid with the really good idea on how to use it might never have that idea because he's never able to access that data, right? And I just want to make sure that it gets to the point where you want to download all the options flow data for this last day and then throw it into some sort of crazy Excel algorithm. Do it, right? Like who knows? It might work, right? It might work.
Yeah.
And you know, like on one side of it, it's like, yes, of course we want people to have more money so that they could trade more. We're going to obviously benefit from that because if you trade on Aries, we're going to make money. But on the flip side of that, it's like, dude, I really do want to see what people can do with that data because I don't believe that has been tapped yet. And the reason I think it's not tapped is because the people who want to innovate on top of what's already available simply just don't have access to the type of data that they want, that they need, right?
Yeah. No, hold on. This is gonna be a good personal question for you. Ready? Were you that little kid back in the day who had this great idea but wasn't able to access the data, and this is how this all started?
Man, look, I've always been the type of person, and this is not like I hope this doesn't come off as like egotistical or whatever. But I've always been the type
No,
of
you're
person.
a beast, dude. Go ahead.
I've always been the type of person where it's like, they're like, hey, you can test out of one class, and you decide to go, okay, I'm just gonna test out of all five, right? Or like, hey, we want you to build us this data tool, and I'm like, nah, screw it, I'm just gonna build a better trading platform than you already have. And I've done that ever since I was young, just on obviously on a way different scale, but I remember being like, I don't want it to seem like I was this like frugal kid that grew up with absolutely nothing, because that's not the case at all. I never wanted for anything, right? Like I was very grateful to have a roof over my head and food when I needed food. But I did always want, like, I want books, and my parents are like, hey, we just can't afford that right now. Or I wanted a new computer, and my parents are like, that's like, go get a job, right? and it's the same.
Yeah, go wash
Yeah,
dishes.
and it's the same thing right now. It's like, you see people on Reddit type up these crazy reports on these stocks, and they're like, could somebody please ping me to the short data? Or could somebody check, could somebody please give me this analyst report? Like, you see this on Reddit, you see it on StockTwits, you see it on all these different social platforms. And I just want to, like, what if while that kid was sitting, like whoever wrote that article was sitting there, what if they had the report? And that spurt of motivation had them read that report, and in that report they found exactly what they wanted. I just I don't want to say that I was the kid that always like I was the kid that couldn't get access to what he wanted, but I do want to say that I completely relate with not being able to get the thing that you need to get you to that next level, and that's bullshit, right? Because it's bullshit primarily because we live in the age of information. The internet makes information so readily available, and this idea of multi-billion-dollar hedge funds, I know this is not a crazy example, but this idea of multi-billion-dollar hedge funds who already have every advantage on the planet being able to also hold a monopoly on data, so that they can front run the market even more than they do. I don't understand that idea, and somebody is going to fix it. It will be fixed eventually. Why not have it be Aries?
So, something I've realized on this is that I really consider you the real Robin Hood, right? Because what you're trying to do is but instead of robbing from the rich and stealing their money, you're stealing data.
Yeah, I mean, look, the truth of the matter is, of course,
Oh,
I want to make money, right? Every human being on this planet, I believe most human beings, especially more so human beings that grow up in a capitalistic society, of course you want to make money. But the reality of it is, like, I just realized really early on that, like, the $45,000 a month that I could be making selling data services, if I'm being honest, it's like it's not as bad as saying, yeah, I destroyed the entire data market. Like, imagine how that's going to look on my rap sheet. It's like I disrupted the entire data market, and now my app has 1 million users and it's doing really well. It's like I don't need It's like, yes, Aries is trying to be a profitable business. Yes, we charge commissions on some asset classes, but the way that I see it is you have to do some things like that to create a sustainable enough foundation to be able to do really dope shit like giving out free data. And that's, I think, a huge problem with companies like Robinhood or Webull or even Trading 212 like in the UK. These companies often are so focused on their very, very slim revenue margins that come solely from payment for order flow that they can't really focus on the software or expanding or globalizing their idea. So with Aries, because we have all these different asset classes like futures and indexes where we're charging commissions, although they're industry leading, that gives us a way wider margin of wider revenue margin, and having a wider revenue margin makes it so that we can focus less on trying to extract as much money per customer and focus more on building the best software that we possibly can. So I guess I definitely don't want to call ourselves a Robin because we're in this to make money, right? But on the flip side of it, it's like, yes, we 100% want to provide as much value as humanly possible to our customer, and that idea comes from us believing that the current products out there right now don't provide that value, right? Which is just like, it's just capitalism, right?
No. Again, you're very well spoken. I love it. I love a person who's well spoken. And to touch on the commissions, your commissions are very cheap, and especially if you're going to offer all these data services. I don't want to I like calling data, not data. It doesn't really matter, right? Like, I mean, I was trading futures on the app for like a month, and I was paying 50 cents. Like, it was like, it's really not that big of a deal. When you go trade futures on anywhere else, it's $5 round trip. It's a huge difference, and especially if you, as from a customer standpoint, and you have all these tools with it too, it really doesn't feel like you're paying commissions.
Yeah, I mean, so like our goal is to be industry leading across all asset classes. So the cool thing about that is that not every asset class on the planet is commission free. So like with futures, our commissions are industry leading, but futures aren't commission free anywhere else. So we can offer you like the best commissions for futures. Same thing with like crypto, right? Like, it's like crypto generally for like a really good crypto platform. They're not commission free anywhere.
So commissions are outrageous on some of those platforms.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as we can like sort of front run the market and offer commissions there, we only actually need about 15 to 20% of our clients to trade higher level asset classes in order to make to make a profit. So offering stuff like commission free options and equities at the same fill rate as a really, really high level broker, we're built right on top of TradeStation's engine, which charges commissions. So offering those for free, you can kind of think of it as our version of a $2 Costco hot dog. It just gets people in the door.
Absolutely. And I do want to touch on on how orders are filled, because we spoke about that during our meeting as well. Now, you're direct to market, right? So you don't have like a liquidity provider, like a Citadel or anything like that. So you're not selling order flow. Well, is that correct?
I mean, no. So let me touch on this a little bit, because I think that this idea of payment for order flow is really, really misunderstood by the retail audience. Most payment for order flow, I don't want to say all, because some of it is malicious, but most payment for order flow helps you get a fill. Not all payment for order flow is this malicious scalping in the middle of an order. Without payment for order
front
flow,
loading,
I would guarantee you 70% of the time, your order would not go through the way that you want it to go through. So TradeStation is, yes, direct to market. We're built right on top of their engine. So I just want to touch on this. We always prioritize customer fill speed above revenue. Every single time. There is never going to be a time where your order is not pushed to the national best bid and offer exchange, because that's how TradeStation operates. So our average fill time, or TradeStation's average fill time, is a third of a second, and that's on their legacy. That's on their legacy platforms. So Aries is a direct connection. Like, for example, with our new application that's launching, so we're launching the new app around July 1st. And what's going to happen is, I believe that I might be wrong about this, but I believe that we're going to be the first platform, infrastructure-wise, where your phone will actually be sort of like the server, right? So all of the data will be streaming directly from the exchanges to your phone. We're not going to be an intermediary in terms of sending you that data, only pushing your order. So if you think fill speeds are fast now, and they are already super fast on TradeStation, even faster on Aries, in like 3 weeks, the mobile application, like it will be damn near impossible anywhere else to get a faster fill, unless that fill just isn't possible. So like people talk about how good fill speeds are right now, and the way that I see it is like people are congratulating us right now, but the truth is we're already thinking 3 months into the future. And if Aries is this good with fill speed now, this good with data now, in 3 months, I genuinely believe not only are we going to have the best back-end infrastructure-based platform, I believe that we'll also have the best front-end, easy-to-use, good fill platform. And that's kind of like the end goal. Is I just want to give, on top of giving people access to data, it's like I want to give them real unfiltered access to the U.S. markets.
You just gave me the tingles.
And I say all this like out loud, and I know it sounds like this big utopian dream, but I don't want it to seem like that, because from my perspective, like this is my world, right? Like every day is sort of focused on this idea, and it's such a blessing. Like I don't think our users really understand. Even you guys, I don't think you guys understand. Like you guys being our earliest users and giving us this feedback, we're building right on that feedback, and I can't wait to show you what we're building, because the truth of the matter is I really believe we're going to be one of the first platforms that's built right on top of what people are asking for. Like how dope is that, right? Like it takes all the guesswork out of it for me, because I'm an idiot, right? Like, we've been over this. I think it's like the fourth time I've said it.
You keep saying that, but I don't know if
right?
you're
So
that dumb.
it's like I know that I'm not going to come up with the best ideas, but we have hundreds of suggestions and bug reports in our channels and ideas that have come directly from our users. And it's pretty cool to like watch my team build exactly those ideas, because it's like, damn, I can't wait to make people happy, right? Like that guy suggested that, I'm just going to add him. Like, hey, this is done.
I will say, though, like when it comes to feedback, you guys are monsters at it. I see it all the time in Discord. People are like, hey, we want this and this. And you're like, cool, sounds good. I'm like, okay, that was a lot easier than expected.
Yeah, dude, people, it's funny, right? Because sometimes people will, they'll ask for something like really early in the morning, like something simple, maybe. Like a couple of weeks ago, somebody was like, hey, I just want to be able to share my trades. And then when I share the link, like anybody can click it and that trade will open on Aries, and I just click confirm. And I remember my developer, like 2 days later, he was like, yeah, that sounds great. And then like 12 o'clock that same night, so like midnight that same night, he emails me. He's like, hey, Reda, is this cool if I push? Is it cool if I push this to the production build? Like I figured out that share link feature. And like next morning you tell this guy, you're like, yeah, we built that feature. Or like we've done that countless times. Like we had a bug issue with the charts that was fixed like 5 minutes before market open. But the way that I keep saying the way, it's really not the way that I see it, but I think that the way that things should be handled is right around your customer, because it works, right? Like look at what Amazon did in a decade, focusing only on the customer. If we can get 100 people to love Aries, and when you love something, you tell everybody you know about it, right? If we can get 100 people to love Aries by the end of this summer, it'll snowball, especially when we launch our referral program, right? But it'll snowball, and the market's big enough so that if we can get 100 people to absolutely fall in love with Aries, then I believe we can get millions of people to fall in love with Aries, and that's sort of the end goal. It's like, by the end of this summer, I want the best platform on the planet, and we're really making strides towards that. I think that, I don't mean to be hard on ourselves, right? But I think there are sticky points right now. But as we keep grinding through them, I just don't see why we can't build a platform like sort of for the people, by the people, as cliche as that sounds.
It's not cliche. That's exactly what you are. I see it, and I believe in it. So there, you got me sold. So I remember our first phone call. You sold me. I was like, all right.
Maybe I'm just a good salesman, man. You guys are like,
hey, man,
you discount it. Maybe
you got any used cars?
That's funny.
All right. Well, we have just about run out of time. This was a delight, and I know Ellis is so fired up right now, which
Oh, I'm jazzed up.
Thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate you. And we're huge fans of Aries, and let's go ahead and build out that fantasy football. I feel like that's a game changer.
definitely. We'll take that offline for sure. And it was a really good timing, man. I actually just got to the airport, so I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. Right, this was a great experience for me. You know, I don't often do these kind of like public facing, whatever. But this was a great experience, and maybe hopefully at some point we could do it again.
Awesome, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. We got
end of summer, baby.
I think
when the big launch comes.
we've got a challenge we got to launch. So.
Yep. We got to bring your team on too. Yeah, we'll go crazy today. You support us, we support you. That's how we do it.
All right, man. All right.
All right.
Thank
you.
Yeah, see ya.
By accessing this podcast, you acknowledge that the Penny Lane podcast makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional or financial advice. Unless specifically stated otherwise, the Penny Lane podcast does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. The third-party materials or content of any third-party site referenced in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions, standards, or policies of the Penny Lane podcast. The Penny Lane podcast assumes no responsibility or liability for the accuracy or completeness of the content contained in third-party materials or on third-party sites referenced in this podcast, or the compliance with applicable laws of such materials and or links referenced herein.